Hey there, policy buffs. If you're into the latest buzz, you can't miss this. Welcome to our channel. Today we're diving headfirst into the Great White North, where some major changes are brewing that could shake things up for both Canadians and Americans. We're talking trade tensions, travel restrictions, environmental policies, the whole shebang. It's like someone spiked the maple syrup with political drama, and honestly, I'm all in. So grab a double-double, get comfy, and let's dive into how these new policies might just change your life. Because whether you're a die-hard hockey fan or just someone who loves a good poutine now and then, this is one episode you won't want to miss. Stay tuned for the latest updates on Canada's new policies effective from March 12, 2025, when the United States imposed 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports, including those from Canada. On March 13, 2025, Canada implemented reciprocal 25% tariffs on U.S. steel, aluminum and other goods. And on March 21, 2025, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced plans to eliminate internal trade barriers within Canada by July 1, 2025, to bolster economic resilience against U.S. tariffs. Attention, trade enthusiasts! This one's for you. Even the friendliest neighbors can't resist a good old-fashioned economic showdown. Remember when the U.S. slapped a 25% tariff on Canadian steel and aluminum imports back in 2018? Yeah, not exactly a neighborly gesture, was it? Canada, being the polite and reasonable country it is, initially tried to play nice. But when that didn't work, they decided to fight fire with, well, more trade. They started by eliminating internal trade barriers, making it easier for Canadians to buy and sell goods within their own country. Now, on the surface this might seem like a purely domestic move, but it's actually a pretty savvy power play. By strengthening their own internal markets, Canada's less reliant on exports to the U.S. It's like they're saying, oh, you want to play hardball? Fine, we'll just take our hockey pucks and go home. But here's the kicker. This trade war has consequences for both sides. While Canada's busy bolstering its domestic economy, some of its export-dependent industries are feeling the pinch. And let's be real, nobody wins in a trade war. Starting April 2025, new U.S. policies will require foreign nationals, including Canadians, staying in the U.S. for 30 days or more to register with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services and undergo fingerprinting. Did you know the new U.S. travel regulations are causing quite the commotion among Canadian snowbirds? Imagine this. You're one of the 500,000 Canadian snowbirds ready to trade the icy tundra for the sunny beaches of Florida. You've packed your bags, polished your snow shovel, just in case, and you're all set for some well-deserved relaxation. But hold on. Before you can even say Wayne Gretzky, you're hit with a new set of U.S. travel regulations. Apparently our friendly neighbors to the south now require Canadians staying longer than 30 days to register and undergo fingerprinting. Fingerprinting? You'd think they were entering a high-stakes poker tournament, not a retirement community in Boca Raton. Naturally, this hasn't gone over well with our Canadian friends. They're used to a more, shall we say, laid-back border experience. You know, the kind where a friendly wave and a "how's it going, eh?" is all it takes to cross over. Now, they're being treated like potential criminals, subjected to invasive security measures. The impact on Canadian tourism has been, to put it mildly, chilly. In 2022 alone, there was a 15% drop in Canadian visitors to the U.S. People are rethinking their travel plans, opting for destinations with slightly less stringent entry requirements. And who can blame them? Nobody wants to spend their vacation feeling like they're in an episode of Border Security Snowbird Edition. But it's not just tourism that's taking a hit. The Canadian real estate market in the U.S. is also feeling the chill, with a 10% decline in property purchases by Canadians in 2022. Get ready for a wild ride. Canada, famous for its stunning wilderness and rich natural resources, is facing a bit of a climate pickle. Imagine Canada as a teenager with a messy room, knowing it needs to tidy up its environmental act. And to be fair, they've started making some moves in the right direction. In 2019, they rolled out a federal carbon pricing system, which is a fancy way of saying they're charging for pollution. The goal? Make it pricier to pollute so companies will clean up their act. And the cash from the carbon tax, it funds clean energy projects and other green initiatives. In 2020, $2.6 billion was earmarked for these projects. Sounds like a solid plan, right? Well, not everyone thinks so. Some provinces, especially those dependent on fossil fuels, argue the carbon tax is bad for the economy and hurts hard-working Canadians. This debate has ignited a national conversation about climate change, with Canadians deeply divided on the best approach. Some say bold action is crucial to prevent environmental disaster, while others worry about the economic fallout of moving away from fossil fuels. And then there's the issue of cross-border cooperation. Canada and the U.S. have a long history of working together on environmental issues, but the current political climate has made things tricky. And in April 2023, the Online Streaming Act was passed, requiring digital streaming platforms like Netflix and YouTube to contribute to Canadian content production. I bet you didn't know how Canada's media landscape is changing. Hold on to your toques, folks, because we're about to wade into the wild world of Canadian media. See, Canada's got this thing called the Online Streaming Act, and let me tell you, it's causing quite a stir. It's basically Canada's way of saying, hey, streaming giants, if you want to make money off our citizens, you better start showcasing some of our talent, eh? The act, introduced in 2022, requires digital platforms like Netflix, Disney+, and Amazon Prime Video to produce and promote Canadian content. Think of it as a cultural quota, a way to ensure that Canadian stories and voices are being heard amidst the sea of American sitcoms and superhero movies. Now on the surface, this might seem like a no-brainer. Who doesn't love a good dose of Canadian culture? But some U.S. companies aren't exactly thrilled about it. They argue that it's government overreach, that it stifles creativity, and that it's going to lead to a whole lot of mediocre content just to fill a quota. But here's the thing, Canada's not the only country doing this. Many countries around the world have similar regulations in place to protect their own cultural industries. And let's be honest, Canadian television and film have produced some gems over the years. Schitt's Creek, anyone? Kim's Convenience, Trailer Park Boys? The list goes on. So, while the Online Streaming Act might ruffle some feathers in Hollywood, it's also an opportunity for Canadian creators to shine. You need to hear this if you're a fan of Canadian content. Stay tuned for the next chapter. Attention Canadians and Americans, this one's for you. Ever thought Canadians were just too polite to protest? Think again. Even the friendliest Canuck has their breaking point. With trade tensions, travel bans, and political drama, Canadian pride is on the rise. And with it, a powerful movement to boycott U.S. products and travel. It's like they're saying, you want to play hardball? Bring it on. Canadians are taking their business elsewhere. Suddenly, those Made in America labels aren't so tempting. From clothes to cars to coffee, Canadians are hunting for homegrown alternatives. Farmers markets are booming with local produce, craft breweries are popping up everywhere, and Canadian-made clothing brands are the new trend. And it's not just about products. Travel spots south of the border are feeling the chill too. Instead of heading to Florida or California, Canadians are exploring their own stunning landscapes, from the rugged coastlines of Nova Scotia to the majestic Rocky Mountains. This boycott is shaking up businesses on both sides of the border. U.S. companies that depend on Canadian customers are feeling the squeeze, while Canadian businesses are seeing a surge in support. It's a powerful example of how consumer choices can shape economies and the surprising outcomes of political moves. Will this boycott have a lasting impact? Only time will tell. But one thing's clear. Canadians are no longer just America's quiet, agreeable neighbor. They're finding their voice, asserting their independence, and showing they're ready to stand up for what they believe in. Hey there. If you're into international relations, you won't want to miss this. We've just taken you on a whirlwind tour of Canada's evolving landscape in 2023. From trade tensions to travel challenges, with over 1.5 million travelers crossing the border each month, environmental debates to cultural events, including the massive 2022 protests with over 10,000 participants, it's clear that the Canada-US relationship is anything but dull. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more updates on how international policies could impact your life. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the fascinating world of global affairs. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay curious.